He is everything I know about prompt engineering, I learned from him. And fun fact, was going to become a lawyer and then saw AI, so became an engineer instead. So it actually is quite fun, but I think has realized in the amount of time that we where you really get the magic is in the engineering and law, and giving lawyers engineering like powerful tools. And one cool thing about AI is that it's so powerful that you can access it directly. So you all are used to, doing things in a scrappy way for your clients, and to be able to achieve big law type results, with perhaps being smaller. And so I think AI is the perfect instantiation of that, and super excited to have built a product to enable you all to do that. I hate vendor prezos as much as the next person. And so it's like kind of funny that I am a vendor now, but the way that I think it's useful is actually like deliver utility, like give people what they want. So one fun thing, Barty and I actually met when I was the GC at Replit, which is a developer platform. And funny enough, I think developers and lawyers have a ton in common, including just basically a natural skepticism, but also a natural nerdiness. And so I think we're going to take this hour and just like appeal to your natural nerds. And like, hopefully in doing that, you'll like the product also. If you don't, well, welcome the feedback, but also going to do a little bit on prompt engineering. Oh my gosh, Jenny joined. I love it. So Jenny is one of our earliest users, and she is so everything I didn't learn from Bardia on prompt engineering, I learned from Jenny. So basically, like, she was very, very skilled, and yeah, so it was actually our first user. So yes, it's very exciting. So thank you, Jenny, and super excited to have you. All right, so good stuff. And then I do, I know it's lunchtime, so shoot me, but I do kind of prefer cameras on if you can do it, only because it's like just slightly less uncanny valley. So thank you to those of you who are cameras on. And then Brian, Rachel, Andrew, and Maria, I'm assuming that you're eating lunch and we'll join cameras on later. All right, amazing. Okay, so let's dive in. Host disabled screen sharing. So Brian, I need you to quick enable that, please.
1 second, moving on it.
Oh, I'm sorry, Maria. I hope you feel better. Should be a sunny weekend this coming weekend, so hopefully by then.
All right, you should be good.
All right. Okay, so I've got my fancy AI generated image. I could not find a reverse color logo for Hey Council, but I'm ready to dive in. All right, so very easy pop quiz. When was the last time you Googled something for your job?
Today.
Today. All right, can we get some more precision up in here? Half an hour ago, 10 minutes ago, 2 minutes ago. All right, Jason, you're good. Anybody else? All right, well, look, the core reason I do this is not, to make you feel good with an easy pop quiz, which you can pass, and all of you today looking at Borix, yes. You're already really good Googlers. You probably know how to stalk people on LinkedIn. You can probably like tell if you're going to be pitching a potential client. You can look up their, SEC filings and so on. But the idea is that you have the tools that you need to be good at extracting information. So AI is basically just super advanced Googling with some slight differences that we'll get into. But essentially, if you remember the first time you used Google, which I do, it was the year 2000, and I Googled myself because vanity. And it found high school tennis scores, which is like kind of shocking that it would have found that at the time. And now, of course, we're all Google native, we're used to using it. So I see a world where all of us are going to be AI native very quickly. All right, so quick agenda, going to intro to AI, do a quick metaphor, and then get your free logins. If you want to follow along with some of what I do, here's the link, and you can actually literally just do it while I talk. I spend a little bit of time on a metaphor. It's a little bit theoretical, but it's also, I found that people who embrace this metaphor end up getting really good at AI. And so, so bear with me. I guarantee that it will be useful to you, regardless if you use GCAI or if you use other AI products, or if you advise clients developing their own AI. So we'll spend a little bit of time on that. And then if you're really nerdy and want to watch more videos of me, there's a video in the onboarding, but otherwise you can just skip it because you're going to get a deeper personalized dive in this call. All right, anybody know who this eyebrow gentleman is here on the right? No cheating if you've seen this before. Wild guess. That is Learned Hand. Also a litmus test for if you are a lawyer or not. So let's see. All right, so AI, why would you talk about AI in legal? It's basically taking over the world. Like, I don't have to tell you, like the hype mania, like Brian and Christian, who's on this call, and I did a call like a few weeks ago, and we had like 1,000 registrants because it was like, that's how excited people are about AI. LLMs are uniquely good for legal work. So large language models, that's the core tech. And then AI is still early days, right? So not just the first inning, but the first pitch. Like, you can literally, when I used to work for Jeff Bezos and Amazon, it was like microphones everywhere, cameras everywhere. You don't even have to order on Amazon. It just naturally shows up. Like, this is the kind of the world that we're going to. And then using AI will make you better, right? So literally had people tell me and got connected with a CFO today because that person's GC is so excited about AI and is using our product so much that the CFO was like, what the heck happened to you? You're flipping amazing. Your pace is just unreal. So they got through some kind of audit. They got through the quarter close, et cetera. And essentially the CFO could not believe how much more efficient and how much more in depth the legal work that this person was generating was. And she was like, well, I'm using GCI, you should know about it, meet the founder. So I'm having a call with that CFO later today. But the basic point is that you could actually be better and even happier, right? So there's data on this too. GitHub did a survey, engineers who use their AI, engineers who don't, 2-question survey. Do you use Copilot for your code? How happy are you at work? 20% difference. So like if you had a tool that could make you 20% happier, like whether it's sold by me or sold by somebody else, like I would for sure want to be using it. All right. And then of course we got Chief Justice Roberts. He likes AI too. Notable because it's one of the few times I agree with him. All right. And then the intern metaphor. All right. Gonna spend a little bit of time on this one, but basically AI is a smart, fast, overeager college intern who has read the entire internet. All right, smart, fast, overeager college intern who has read the entire internet. So all 6 parts of that have meaning. And then of course I couldn't resist the opportunity to actually do the graphic. Very excited in a modern office setting. Perhaps Brian's wife with her organization skills helped do the design here. I don't know, but in any event, there is our overeager college intern ready to use AI. All right, so breaking that down from the point of view of you all, it passes the bar exam, the New York bar exam, which is a hard one. I don't know, I haven't taken it, but 90th percentile. There is some nerd sniping going on. Some people say that actually it's the 68th percentile because it's February bar and blah, blah, blah. But anyways, the point is it's good at legal reasoning, GPT-4o and GPT-4 specifically. Passes the MPRE, passes the CPA exam, which I for sure would not pass. And then this is the stat that gets everybody really excited. So BCG, Boston Consulting Group, gave junior folks access to AI. Half the group had AI, half did not. And then they did a blind review of the work by more senior consultants. So those who had access to AI, 12% more tasks, 25% faster. And then this is the eye-popping part, 40% higher quality. So literally that was the only variable. So you think about like human plus AI, that's where you get the good stuff. So this particular study was cited in a bunch of earnings calls. By the way, those of you who support public companies or have supported public companies, it's I think it was 35% of public company earnings calls mentioned AI this quarter. So, I mean, it's literally everybody's all over it. And then closed test on contracts issues. This one got a lot of play. Basically 77 times faster, 0.03% of the price. So, you might say, well, what the hell? Is it going to take our jobs? Well, no, because these were closed tests, right? So you had to tell it exactly what issue to spot. And then it couldn't actually do the negotiation, right? So you need the human for that. So imagine you just use AI to get you that first pass. And then of course it's fast, don't need to belabor this point, but the Copyright Act, 400 pages, 185,000 words. It did a pretty decent summary in 4 minutes. And then a human, even assuming you read fast, it would still take you 8 hours. So it's about 100 times faster. And then hallucination. I did want to give you guys a word on that. So sometimes AI wants to please you so badly that it will do that. So it's kind of like if you told somebody like, hey, Brian is always right. No matter what he asks, you're gonna do what he wants. And so in that scenario, if you've told it in the system prompt, so you've told it on a broad basis, it's like a standing order in the military, right? So standing order, officer comes in, you're supposed to salute, until you're told at ease, right? If that's the standing order, then you can see how the AI gets to sometimes making things up. So the canonical example here, if you tell AI to summarize a fake meeting or summarize a meeting, and then you forget to put in the actual notes, it will give you a fake meeting. Now, this is sort of a tell on the power of the AI, but Gemini, which was Google's AI, if you did that, it would be like, you had a meeting at 2 p.m. with Tom, Dick, and Harry about AI. It's beautiful, agenda items, the whole thing, completely made up because I just forgot to put the notes in. Now, some AIs are tuned to actually ask you like, oh, hey, sorry, Brian, did you maybe forget to put the notes in? And that's actually a feature where the AI is checking itself in that scenario. So at GCAI, we've built in where it will ask you in more detail, be a little bit more Socratic if it doesn't know. Now, it doesn't always get it right, but it gets it right a significantly higher percentage of the time just by doing that sort of like, it's called chain of thought, but essentially asking itself if it has the information to answer whatever it is you've asked. And then a lot of people are dog people. So basically it's the same thing with dogs. If you want your dog to behave, you got to train it and you got to be very clear with your instructions. So hence prompting. All right, college intern. Anybody recognize her on the right? Nobody is as up on 2000s trivia as I am. Really? Nobody? That is Anne Hathaway in Devil Wears Prada. Yes, thank you, Neil. Very good. All right, so the reason I use her as an example, she is an incredibly brilliant assistant. She, in the movie, gets like a pre-release copy of Harry Potter. She's just amazing. But when she shows up to work, fresh college grad, she's working for Meryl Streep, who plays the editor of Vogue. And she shows up to work in kind of a dumpy blue sweater for a fashion magazine. And essentially Meryl Streep in this iconic scene, like dresses her down as like, hey, you work at a fashion magazine. You can't show up in this dumpy thing, and does this like amazing monologue about how the blue was actually cerulean and it was Oscar de la Renta and it was, essentially this whole thing. And then the next day, our Anne Hathaway character shows up to the magazine looking like $1 million. She looks like this. And it's great from the standpoint of management because essentially Meryl Streep really mentored her and told her what it takes to succeed in this particular field. So AI is somewhat similar, where it doesn't know, it's pretty smart, it passes the bar exam, but it doesn't know how you do things. So you have to kind of tell it. So a couple ways to do that. You can give these long, detailed prompt instructions, and you can learn prompt engineering deeply yourself. Cool, I can help you do that. Or you can buy a legal product that already has that training built in. So imagine Anne Hathaway had been told previously, like, oh, hey, part of working as a fashion magazine is that you actually show up looking the part, then she would have done that just like she did here. So that's kind of the pitch where like, people ask me sometimes, like, can you achieve what GCAI has achieved just through regular ChatGPT? And the answer is sometimes. If you prompt and you do what's called artisan prompting, where you're actually telling it exactly specific instructions. But by the time you do that, and then you don't get all the software and other features, which we'll demonstrate, but by the time you do that, like, you guys' time is valuable. And it's often quicker to do it yourself than to like artisan prompt. So let's go through this. So quick data, 65 to 92% accurate with prompting. I can share the studies if you like, but basically it had to do with classifying job codes in the Department of Labor. And then they work best when you iterate, right? So think back to when you were a junior lawyer and you had people critique your work. You would basically, somebody gave you a specific checklist. Part of your value add as a junior attorney was to go through someone else's checklist and actually iterate that way. So similarly with AI, if you give it checklist, give it specific targets to hit, it will hit them. And then soft factors, this is the fun stuff. I don't want to spend too much time on it because I want to get in and work on prompting with you guys. But essentially, if you tell AI, this is important to me in my career, 8% better. If you tell AI that you will give it a tip for a perfect answer, which of course makes no sense because it has no payment system, but if you tell it that, it will be more accurate. If you tell it that that you'll give it a dog treat for a perfect answer, more accurate. So it's really like, it's surprisingly human-like. So the cool thing for you all is that you all, I'm going to venture to guess, you've either been through it or not, and you've had interns, so you can use those skills. All right, reading, it analyzes word probability, and basically that's why it's so good for lawyers. And then let me pop through this, the entire internet. So this is where it gets really fun. Those of you who've done licensing or terms of use, which is probably about most of us, essentially, if it exists on the open internet, and that includes YouTube, then OpenAI has read and transcribed it and used it for this model. 2.5 billion books is the equivalent, or 65 libraries of Congress. OpenAI does respect robots.txt. That's kind of a nuanced point, but the basic idea is it doesn't crawl things if you tell it not to. So if you have clients that don't want their stuff crawled, you can do that. And then if something is well written about the internet, on the internet, the AI responses will be better. All right, quick terminology. In fact, no, let's skip that. You guys all know this. All right, so let's dive in with the prompting. Okay. Anybody, this one, I know a couple of you have seen this one before, but does anybody know what this person is talking about? Nobody? Yes, John is correct. It is the compliance certificate. What is a compliance certificate, John?
Just an ancillary deal doc.
All right. Yeah. So juniors, if you ever find yourselves in this position, they're talking about a compliance certificate, which is a standard component of an MBCA style venture financing. Ask me how I know. No, just kidding. This is unlikely to ever happen to you, but in case it does, I got you. And so somebody else, these are two real lawyers, by the way. I'm friends with them on LinkedIn. You probably are too, Brian. But anyways, she's like, I don't know. I know this wasn't funny at the time, but right now it's hilarious. They didn't even ask for the ancillaries, just a one-off compliance cert. And then Liz is like, oh, it's super funny. Anyways, the point is, we've got whatever 20 odd smart lawyers on this call, and none of you knew what she was talking about. It doesn't mean that you're not good. It just means that you need to be prompted better, right? So in this case, this is a terrible human prompt, and it's also a terrible AI prompt. And so just think about that, be more specific. So a good prompt here would have been, hey, Liz, I'd like you to draft this ancillary document for our NVCA financing. Here's a model. I think it's pretty simple. If you run any questions, let me know. So that would have been a way better answer, a way better prompt for both a human and an AI. So just think about that as you're crafting your questions. And, I've seen people be like, oh, you can't get good answers out of AI. Well, my question to them is like, okay, what are you asking? How are you doing it? What are your expectations? If you frame it as expectations of a smart junior, then I guarantee you'll be much happier. The other thing I want to tell you guys is some people, they say that giving a lawyer AI is like giving a marathon runner a bicycle, where like, okay, you're already really fast. You already know how to run a fast marathon. You've trained your whole life. You can run 26 miles, etc. And if somebody came to you with a bicycle, you'd be like, do I really want to deal with like the little, like the special shoes and the clips? And like, what if my tire gets broken? And like, this is annoying. And you might be a little slower if you're actually getting on board in that way. But then of course, once you have a bike, okay, it's a bike. And so like, you're going to go faster. So that's a kind of frame of reference that I think about. So, so that's how we can get there. All right. So 4 great ways to use Gen AI. I think we can actually have time in this demo. We're only 20 minutes in. We can actually go ahead and do them all and just try it. Because my experience from working at Lambda School, which is now Bloom Tech, which is education provider, it's just different when you try it yourself. So those of you, and so let me quick show of hands, who's already using ChatGPT or some form of AI in their work? That would be pretty much all of you. Okay. Anybody on the phone? Me, Maria for sure is. Okay, awesome. All right, so it looks like most of you. So let's just dive in and get the prompting done. So we can actually look at things that you've done side by side with GPT, or just like optimizing prompts you've already done. So we can just use this as like a workshop type of session. And what are most people using? Are most people using ChatGPT or Copilot, or what are people using? Or GCAI, hopefully.
Admittedly, I probably go to ChatGPT the most, just based on the things that I'm asking it. I trust it with certain things, and then other things I just don't. And I consider myself fairly forward thinking, but I did use for a little bit on some larger kind of like contract work, I used Spellbook but then I stopped using it because I don't do too much commercial work, and I couldn't justify the cost. So
yeah, well, look, you've come to the right place. So I think where we find that people who are hitting limits on ChatGPT or things that just don't work, like literally fighting with it, they end up having the best experience on GCAI because we've designed it specifically for things that lawyers care about. So even silly stuff like we cut and paste nicely. Like Bardia put that together. It's a front end feature. It requires some engineering, some stuff in React and so on. And it works great. And so what's the value of having to redo the format? I don't know, but 5 minutes here, 5 minutes there. I found it helpful. So Andrew's into Perplexity. Okay, cool. So Perplexity, what Perplexity adds is the ability to go out to the web. And we've added that in GCAI as well, with some basically nuances associated with legal. So hopefully, Andrew, you can get in there and try it and you'll like it. But here's the link for to go ahead and sign in, and we can do this stuff in parallel. So one of the things that I learned at Lambda School was they called the IY loop, IWY, for I do, we do, you do. So I'll do a prompt real quick. We'll do it as a group, and then literally just break out, or not even break out, just do some prompting. All right. So there's the link. If you should be able to, you might hit Stripe, but I think not. I think you'll be able to just log in. We have that enabled. Is that right, Bardia? They should be able to just log in there or create logins.
Yep.
All right, amazing.
You just create logins. You'll have a 14-day free trial. You don't have to enter any information.
All right, cool. And then basically, what is AI good at? It's pretty good at summarizing well-known things. It's pretty good at changing formats. It's good at these what the heck situations. Literally, we had somebody go to the trademark website, take a screenshot of the results and be like, what does this even mean? What is the status of this trademark? I cannot tell. And AI does a really good job of explaining that. Shells and first drafts, also good for that. And then expressing your idea in more words. So you might think, why would I want more words? Well, sometimes you know what you're getting at and you just want somebody to fill in the details. And AI is going to be really good at that. All right, so let's try it. You know what? Actually, Jenny has seen this one, so I'm gonna try it with something different, actually. Let's try an easy example to start. Okay. All right, so what is something, maybe I'll pick on you, Andrew, since you said you used AI. What's something you might have asked AI recently?
Trying to think. Mostly for, update, which is why I use Perplexity, which Christian told me about, just to kind of see what the lay of the land of, say earned wage access is. Has anything changed in earned wage access in the last 3 months?
Is earned wage access, is that an act or what is that?
It's basically a product where companies will advance earned wages to employees before their payday.
Got it. Okay.
So you get paid every 2 weeks, but you want to get paid, the week before because you have a bill due.
Got it. Okay. It's sort of
there's-
like it's like a category, sort of like BNPL or buy now, pay later, except this is on.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
got it. I'm a
Yep.
lawyer for a company providing earned wage access products. Can you wage offerings brings to consumers? So what's the key law in the state? Would that be like FTC guidance or CFPB?
So I mean, CFPB at the federal level, the states are taking different approaches to it. And you sometimes get earned wage access companies saying, publishing, hey, I got a notice from X state that what we do is not a loan, et cetera. So it's just trying to keep up with all the different news coming out about it, to the extent that, I can. I've got Google News alerts set up, but, maybe that misses stuff, et cetera. Yeah, California just finalized their regs on earned wage access.
All right, let's see how it does with this. It's going to go out to the web, but basically the question was with relative specificity, right? So earned wage access offerings for consumers. Yes, California put out some guidance. Okay, great. So it's basically going out to the web and giving it to us in a way that we can use, right? So California.
So just real quick, how frequently does yours update? And I ask because literally California finalized theirs like a week ago.
Yeah, so in this case, we're going out to the web. So it's going to be fresh to the minute to the web, but this is January 04. So let's see. So let's ask it that question. So I heard is DFPI
Yep.
finalized its regulations this week. May. You look. So if you know that there's been an update, that's a prompting tip for sure, is you just want to tell it, like whatever it is that you know. So the other thing that we can do is we can actually visit links. So if you had a link to the guidance, you could just give it that link. One thing that the other services tend not to do is they just use a search. So it introduces like an extra hop between whatever it is that you said and what it's giving. So let's see how it did. So yes, the DFPI finalized its regulations on EWA this week in May 2024. Here are the key points. The DFPI is classified D2C EWA products as loans. Oh, interesting. Well, this is bringing up some like serious PTSD for me, but from my work in tech. But in any event, I think they're wrong, by the way. I don't think it's a loan, but whatever. I guess nobody asked my opinion, but
I agree with you, but that's the current rub for these products now. So yeah.
Yeah. So okay. So final regulation.
So they're right. They summarized it.
Yeah. Okay. So write an email. To the executive team at my company about these regs. Tell them we are on it and have updated our consumer disclosure. Okay, let's see.
So I guess one part for feedback there, like the implications there are wrong.
This classification aligns with other income-based advances. Is that not true?
The second one.
Protection considerations in compliance with existing lending laws. Is it not?
No.
So say more about that.
So the new regs classify EWA products as loans, but say if you comply with XYZ, you're not subject to California's lending laws, and you just need to register under, the DFPI's California Consumer Financial Protection Act. So they don't treat them as loans, and you're not subject to usury limits, et cetera, things of that nature.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Learning. Okay. So that's a good example of where you would actually give it a correction. So that's one thing. Remember I talked about taming the intern with clear instructions. So in this scenario, if you actually knew and like you went through and read it and you're like, no, actually, here's what it's doing. Let's have it actually correct itself. Let's ask it to fix that. So, so how did you phrase that? You said, I am interested in, okay, so say more about compliance. What does the regulation say about compliance with
I guess, California's finance lender law.
California's finance lender law? Because you still have to comply with federal though, right? So it's not,
Well, so that's, we're waiting for the CFPB to hopefully not change its guidance, but they've given guidance that says, this isn't really subject to federal law because they aren't loans.
got it. Okay, interesting. Huh.
Um,
So this is a good example of like where, like for these in the areas that you know well, I would say in your prompting, you would want to go ahead and give it that, right?
Yep.
Under the CFL. Okay, so like, is this not correct that it doesn't have to comply with fee and interest rate limits? You have to register
Yeah.
with DI, but you cannot, this is, you can go beyond those or no?
Yeah, those don't apply.
Interesting. Okay. All right. Well, let's
Assuming
try.
like assuming you meet the criteria of being an income-based advanced provider, et cetera. But assuming you
Got
meet
it.
those criteria, you're exempt from California's finance lender law or from compliance with it.
Interesting. Okay. All right. Well, that's a good one. Okay. So let's see. So how about let's try something else. So maybe let's see. I don't want to put
Question, Cecilia,
Yeah,
sorry
yeah.
to like, yeah,
No, no, go
I'm
ahead.
curious, like, what would be a good way? Let's say we weren't experts in this field, and because obviously we're not researching things that we're absolute experts on.
Sure.
How would you prompt to maybe catch those things before they're relied upon? Is it
That's what I was
asking
going to ask, Brian. Yeah.
for those like little, for each bullet, could you just say, can you provide the source? Like, I mean, I'm just thinking, if I didn't know this space, which I don't, I could say, hey, could you provide the source for those 3 bullets, or point me
Exactly.
to an authoritative source that allows me to do further research or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. So this is where like, the technical background I gave about the intern actually makes a difference, because scenarios where you have 4 corners, like a contract, those are actually great for AI because you can tell it exactly as you said to give the exact quote. So this is why everyone and probably half the people pitching you all are like contracts AIs, because contracts is like so clear that like, okay, you're not asking about some reg or some guidance, you're asking literally about what's on the page. And so in that scenario, let me demo that, and then I'll come back to this question and we'll try it with this reg. And meanwhile, Bardia, I don't know, I'm gonna put feedback in the app, and that'll actually normally we don't look at chats because privacy, but if you thumb up and thumb down, then in that scenario, we would take a look. So I'm gonna thumb down that answer and put in Andrew's feedback, and then we're gonna try it with a contract, and I'll show you what I mean with the exact quote question to answer your question. So let's see. So let's say, so no, so the quote about, so let's say, let's check the quote about existing law, application of existing law. Okay. All right. So let's try it with a contract here so you guys can see what I'm talking about. So do a new chat. And I'm going to do the cooking show thing where we have certain official prompts baked in, and then we have other prompts that you can save on your own. But if you go to the official prompts, and we'll do, let's take a look at basics of an MSA. So in this scenario, the MSA that I want to look at is Notions. So Notion, of course, being they're a productivity app. Here's the MSA that I'm looking at. Look. Okay, so this is an MSA. It has all the standard things that you would expect out of an MSA. But let's go ahead and have it take a look. So what I've done is in this kind of official prompt, we've actually asked 4 or 5 questions that you would ask associated with a vendor agreement or an MSA. So we asked it about invoice terms. We said we need, let's just say we need 30-day payment terms instead of 45. 30. We don't want auto renew. Here's what all we want. And then we've added this little thing with different emojis that will actually create the it'll create the like table of what we asked for. So let's submit that, and then we can actually do it side by side with ChatGPT if you like. Oh, did I forget to provide the link? Oh, look. Okay, hang on. Let's get the link. So that's an example of our AI being smart. It didn't just make up a fake MSA. It's like, sorry, you forgot to include the link. So here's the link. Okay, so I'm editing within the box itself, and then I'm going to submit. Let's go from there.
While that's doing that, quick question: if you would have just provided the link in the next text box after in response to its,
Oh yeah, it would have been fine. You could
Okay.
do that too. Sometimes I like to start fresh. One prompting tip is like, you do want to start a new chat when you have a new topic. So if you have an employment law question and then you want to ask a corporate law question or whatever, or if you had some kind of error, sometimes I'll realize that I mistyped something. I typically go back to that one, and I do that in ChatGPT as well. It's just because the more times you repeat, like every time you ask a question, the system prompt is getting re-asked, particularly in ChatGPT. And so it kind of like confuses it sometimes. So again, with like an intern, if you're like, no, start over, let me assign you the project again. And that's how I usually would do it. Also, one fun thing, AI will mirror you. So if you use please and thank you, or if you're like particularly kind or curt or however you are in your question, you will find that the AI will mirror that. So people are always asking, like, I like to say please. I mean, you don't want to be like obsequious, but like I try to be like a little bit polite, and then that way it's a little bit polite in return. All right, so let's take a look at how it did with Notion here. So we asked about invoices. It says, unless otherwise specified otherwise, subscription fees shall be due and payable in full at the time of purchase. So it just did not specify that you can use ACH. So it's going to tell me to go do that. So in this scenario, Brian, to your question, like I literally asked it for the exact quote in my prompt. So one thing you can do, like if we go back to the DFPI example, we can actually say like, no, I want the exact quote about whatever it is explaining your question. Okay, great. And then basically, we can go through and just double check this. So in this scenario, if you are wanting to double check answers, so it says section 4.3, payment terms, any amount unpaid shall be subject to interest rate, and it doesn't specify net 30. Okay, so add language specifying net 30. So let's see what the agreement says at section 4.3. Invoicing and payment, unless specified otherwise, due and payable in full at the time of purchase. Okay, so the AI did a good job here because we said, does this include net 30? And it said no. It basically did a good job and found us the exact quote there. Similarly, auto renew. We've got auto renew here. So let's find that. So this is something that we've done at GCAI that your other AIs aren't going to do, which is actually get the exact quote. So let's find that. 1 second. Yeah, so there it is. And it got it there. Unless otherwise provided for, it shall automatically renew or whatever. And so we actually explained that. So yeah, if we go to ChatGPT with that same prompt, then let's see how it does. Let's give it this identical prompt and go to ChatGPT. It sort of fails. So let's see. I set it up before this class because I knew we were doing it. So here it is. Okay. It says customer shall pay by credit card or other method provided by Notion in section 5.2. So let's go to 5.2. Uh-oh. That's not invoices, that's warranties. That's completely wrong and hallucinated. Okay, that's bad.
One thing to note about the way that the reason why it's failing in ChatGPT is that they abstract the document into something called embeddings, which is what the AI understands. And to keep low on costs, what they do is they try to find the stuff based on what you've given it, rather than just pulling in the whole document. So it's not actually reading from the document you're sending, and something to like keep note of when you use ChatGPT is that it's almost never going to actually have access to the full thing that you're using. And so it tries to be smart about it, but as you can see, it fails a lot of the time, which is just not something you want to rely on as a lawyer. I also don't rely on it for reading documentation for code for the same reason. I like it, it just won't read it.
Is this is even when you like attach a document using
Yeah.
the thing?
Yeah, even if you attach a document. And it also just won't go to pages. If you tell it to go to pages, it will try to search the page on Bing and then from there go. So it doesn't actually have the capability to directly go to a page if you tell it to. So it won't listen to you, which is
Is
not
that like
good.
a security thing, or like why is that as a technical?
I don't know. We could speculate on it and say that it might be because of like they don't want people pulling in stuff directly from web pages for copyright reasons, but I don't know, and I don't know. They're just
Yeah,
I
we're
feel
also-
they don't have the functionality.
I mean, we're also finding that even when you uploaded the thing, it would frequently just mix words around, like introduce randomness. So we're doing some testing last week and it was like vendor shall provide assistance promptly, and it changed it to vendor shall assist, which like that's not the same thing. Like it's literally, it's different enough that it's like you can't like, it was to the point where I'm like, okay, this like using regular ChatGPT, you would feel your ceiling of what you can do, you would hit it much sooner because of this reason. Now, still, you can still do like cold tasks. Like, for example, one thing that that I want to show you guys, or that I want people to try, is just like do an exercise with like creating a training. Like creating a training, it's great for that because like you know the topic, you kind of know what you want. It can do bullets, and like that's pretty good. So that's one thing we can try. But does anybody want to like literally just like get in and try some stuff? I think we should do that. Like I'll just set a timer, and like, you know, if people are watching async, they can try it too. But I feel like that's the best way to bring up use cases. Obviously, we had Andrews that we just tried, but anybody have anything else they want to try? Let's just do it. I think I'm gonna force people. I'm gonna do interactive. So let's see. All right, so I'm gonna set a timer, 3 minutes. So your task is use AI to summarize something or ask something useful. And then we'll come back and I haven't decided if I'll do prizes or what, but I will cold call people when we come back. Which I'm telling you, it actually does make a difference for pedagogy. Like they've done research that cold calling keeps everyone on their toes. And it's also actually more equitable too than raising hands. So anyways, little DEI plug there. But okay, so I'm going to share screen. We're going to do timer 3 minutes. And the challenge is go get something useful out of AI. Okay, looks like you got 10 seconds left. Wrap up, shoppers. Sorry, I couldn't resist the cheese. I'm sorry.
I'm just waiting on the robot, so.
Okay, awesome. Look, and it's with 10 minutes to spare, so we've got double dinging. All right, so who did anybody, how did that feel? Did people get answers that they liked, answers that they didn't? What how did that feel in general? Drop a scale of one, so scale of 1 to 10 in the chat, where 10 is, oh my gosh, this is learned in hand, and 0 is it was absolute garbage, I couldn't use.
While folks are putting their responses in, I think one of the things is maybe I'm still using it like a Chat GPT tool instead of a kind of a GCAI tool. And I think maybe once I become better at prompting this specific type of GPT, that the answers are going to be more differentiated than what I would normally see.
Yeah, so that's actually a good point. One of the things I didn't demo, which I could demo, is we actually give you the ability to put in a little bit of context about your company. So essentially what that means is you can actually tell it. So right here, I've got different companies that I've talked to or demoed or whatever, but you can actually tell it whatever your company is. Or for you, if you're an outside tech DC, so like if you have you work for, Acme and Widget Co. and whatever, then you can put in, Widget Co. here and use the intern metaphor to be like, okay, if I was hiring an intern to help me with Widget Co. work, what would they need to know? They need to know that they sell widgets online and they have customers in XYZ states. And you can also give it the address too, so that it could actually, if you ask it for a draft contract, it could pull in and give you the address. So yeah, so the other thing too is like AIs have different personalities. I happen to think GCAI has a great personality, but you'll start to realize like sometimes they'll be a little more reactive, a little bit more use bullets, a little bit more verbose, whatever it is. And so like you'll start to kind of realize that as you go along. But what did you ask? And what was your example?
Yeah, I'm looking at a recent string of litigation around the California Invasion of Privacy Act. There's a new theory going around, and so I mostly, like I said, I did like a summarize kind of for me and the takeaways and write a brief email prompt, which is something similar that I may do with Chat GPT. And so in the background while you were talking, and maybe while I should have been paying attention, I was actually playing with some of the canned prompts that you already have in GCAI. And I think the NDA reviews, for example, are a best, much better review and output than what I would get from like a Chat GPT, for example. And so I can see how more tailored prompting in this circumstance is going to get me a better outcome.
Good. Okay, great. Love it. All right. So somebody said it caught something they would not have noticed. John, was that you? How did you do it? And what did you ask?
I use, as the overeager intern, I always use it for proofreading because I'm not a good proofreader. So I just dumped a pleading that I'm filing and said, please check for typos. Do not provide suggestions, just typos. And it caught a catastrophic one of a really longly spelled word that could have been an issue. And maybe I would have caught it, maybe I wouldn't, but it put it there for me. So
yeah. I mean, that's a good one. This is like the diligent intern, where it's like, if you tell it exactly what to do and really point the AI at that thing, then you can do that. Like, so we have the one called Contract QA. We have another one that just pulls quotes. So like we have an opinion summarizer where you give it an opinion or you give it a letter or you give it whatever it is, and it will pull those exact quotes out. And like, that's just like a nice task. Like, of course you can do that yourself with a transcript, but it's just going to take you a while. Right. And so like, that's a really good, that's a great use case. And yeah, I mean, catastrophic typos, it's so funny. So I put up a job description over the weekend for chief of staff and got lots and lots of applicants. And one of the things I said was, we really like people to notice typos. And so we got a snarky response that was like, you have a typo in your JD. I was like, okay, thanks. Good. next stage for you. So good job. All right, let's see. So Christian, what did you say? So wasn't too verbose and just answer the question, allowed me to guide the follow-up. I like the UI where I can see the query history clearly and go back and retry if necessary. Okay, cool. Yeah. So what did you
I
ask?
was just
Yeah.
Yeah, I was talking to it about I had a client come in that had a real estate contract, and it was one of those handwritten, no form used type of contracts, right?
Oh no.
So we were trying to figure out how to classify it and kind of what the notice requirements were if there was a default, because they had a default, and it seemed like the person was trying to rescind the contract, but nobody was following any of the types of rules that you would have to play the game. So very quickly just ask, what notices are required by the Texas Property Code to rescind an executory contract, right? So kind of a very broad initial question, but with enough legal prompting that hopefully it'll point in the right direction. And I think what I liked about it is, the lack of explaining things that didn't need to be explained to answer the question, right? And with general prediction with a lot of these models, you just get what it thinks it's supposed to be answering, and it's not guided to what the user's also expecting. And I think that's something you see here with the GCAI. It's got clearly a guide rails that are helping it get to the type of response that an attorney would actually find useful, as opposed to just an overarching answer or a summarization of a bunch of answers. So I really enjoyed that piece. But I thought the coolest UI aspect of it was the ability. I noticed you could go back, you could kind of see your chain of prompts, and you could go back and hit the retry button. So like I had gotten 4 or 5 prompts in, and I thought, man, I should have worded that second question differently, or I should have. And that was really nice to not have to try to restart the conversation or reorient the context of the model, to just quickly go back and just re-ask the question, or upload a document for context and re-ask the question. I think that's a hugely beneficial feature for attorneys, because I can't tell you how many times I just redo my queries and I finally get to my result, right? And not having to do that, or being able to, once I do that, figure out what that prompt is and save it into your prompt library, I think is a really cool feature.
Good. Yeah, no, great. Excited to have you. That's awesome. I mean, I think it's also like, what you spend the most time on. So like whatever it is, like spend a few minutes and systematize it and create your prompts. Like I know Jenny is like super, like she's like my idol on this, right? Like, so tell us about what you do in terms of saving prompts and so on, Jenny. Like how do you do it? How do you think to do it?
When I find myself having good ones that actually result in something that's useful, and I repeat that process, then I'll just, in GCAI, you can save your own prompts. But before GCAI, I have a Notion page where I would just like copy prompt forms in and then use those as my base.
Awesome. Yeah. So other thing is the cutting and pasting is really nice from GCAI. We spent some time on that. It will cut and paste directly. So that's a feature I want to make sure you guys see. But basically, if we go to that same example, somebody asked about this. So I'm going to copy this. It's got sanctions imposed, etc. And I'm going to go to doc.new, create a new Google Doc, and it'll paste directly and look great, right? So we get all the language, the HTML correctly, versus if you cut and paste from ChatGPT. Let me show you that. We cut and paste this table. It cuts and pastes, and it's garbage. Like you have to go back and fix, like this is not a table. So that's super annoying. It's like little quality of life stuff like that. It's just like, how do you assess the value of that? Hard to say, but it's like, by the time you do something a few times, like Jenny said, you save it, you get it. And like, that's the kind of orientation that we have, is like working faster and basically being AI that you can kind of point anywhere. So let's see. So how about you, Brian? What did we pass the Brian test?
I mean, yeah, I just asked it to give me just a kind of a basic summary around state mini FCRA statutes, and I hand selected a few states to get it going. And I think the nice thing was I asked for citations, and it actually gave me links to the actual statute, which was a nice little touch. All except I think one scenario linked to a law firm blog. But it's weird because it did write the statute, like the actual statute citation, but then went to the law firm blog when I clicked on it. But you know, it's like I put 7 states or something. It saves tons of time. All the links actually link to relevant information. So, so yeah, I had a good experience.
Awesome. Yeah. So in that scenario, other prompting tip, if you want the actual law, just say that. So like literally like AI is obedient. So if you're like, this is great, can you give me the actual law? It'll go like for the Texas Privacy Act, it'll go to like the Texas legislature and get the act and so on. So that kind of iteration where like you're pulling together information. We had a guy over the weekend, he wanted a table of all the breach notification statutes and then all the phone numbers and emails for the regulators. And like, yeah, you could go look at that up yourself, but it would have taken, 38 states worth of stuff. So yeah, so I have a call at 1 as well. This was really fun. So your logins will work for 2 weeks. If you have questions, clearly like me and Bardia, we like crazy nerd out about this stuff. So literally just if you're like, hey, I was trying to get to do this and I couldn't, like shoot us feedback in the app or send an email. It's just Cecilia@getgc.ai or bardia.getgc.ai. And like, it just makes me happy to see people using AI. And like, if you pay me also, that will also make me happy. But like, I generally, it's genuine that I really want you all to be amazing. And, that's part of, I think, the Hate Council spirit as well. So just really excited about that. And thank you. And hopefully you walked away with a couple of useful things. And we do other classes as well on Maven and stuff. If you want a deeper dive, we're going to be doing a prompting 201 class, which will skip right to the good stuff. And then just always looking out for future ideas and so on. So please reach out.
Thanks so much, Cecilia.
All right. Hey, thank you. Thank you. And then I will follow up with all of you with a code for Hate Council. We'll do more % off than we just do for normal beta users. All right, amazing. Talk soon. Bye.
Okay,
Thank you. See you, Maria. See you later. Bye. Thanks.